Ben Harper got his guitar, and he went out and he started using this. He goes, no, you guys don't understand. I went to a different part of the country, and I was able in my hotel room to turn the screw and adjust my neck angle, and I'm ready to do a show. I've never been able to do that before. And we go, yeah, we know that's what we want to do. He goes, no, you don't understand. And he goes, this is everything. We go, well, we do understand. He goes, no, you don't understand.
That's a great example of user interface.
Welcome to Life with Strings Attached. I'm your host, Jamie Gale. Today's episode was recorded live in Anaheim, California at the NAMM Show as part of the 125th anniversary of NAMM within the 10th annual Boutique Guitar Showcase. As part of these special anniversary events, I moderated a 3-part series of panel discussions on the unwritten future of guitar. Our panelists are some of the most influential people in the guitar business today. I hope you enjoy this special 3-part series on Life with Strings Attached. The second part of our 3-part series on the unwritten future of guitar deals with UI design in guitar. UI, or user interface design, is the process of creating the visual layout, look, and function elements of an interactive product, focusing on how users see and interact with shapes, buttons, icons, and menus to make the experience aesthetically pleasing, intuitive, and easy to use. It's a crucial part of the overall user experience, dealing with the specific touchpoints a user engages with, ensuring that they're functional, accessible, and delightful. Join our panel of industry-leading guitar designers and innovators as they discuss their approach to guitar UI and UX and what it may mean for the unwritten future of guitar. Our first panelist is Bob Taylor. Bob Taylor co-founded Taylor Guitars in 1974 at age 19, helping transform a small California shop into one of the world's leading acoustic guitar manufacturers. Known for his slim profile necks and player-friendly designs, Bob pioneered modern innovations that set new standards for quality and playability. Beyond guitars, he has championed forward-thinking forest conservation and reforestation efforts to secure tone woods for future generations. A Musicians Hall of Fame Industry Icon Award recipient, Bob continues to guide Taylor Guitars as a senior advisor. Our second panelist is Sheldon Dingwall. Sheldon Dingwall is the founder and designer of Dingwall Guitars. He spent over 50 years in the music business, spanning music education, record production, live touring, instrument repair, and manufacturing. An early adopter of Ralph Novak's fan fret concept, he built the first production multi-scale bass guitar in 1993. Since then, Dingwall has continued to push the craft forward with innovations in hardware, strings, pickups, finishes, and electronics, including collaborations with partners such as Dark Glass and Rupert Neve Designs. Our third panelist is Ola Strandberg. Ola Strandberg is the founder, designer, and visionary behind Strandberg Guitars. Trained as a software engineer, Ola began building guitars early on as a hobby, driven by a desire to solve the ergonomic and playability challenges of traditional instruments. His pursuit of lighter, more comfortable, and more responsive guitars led to groundbreaking designs such as the patented EndurNeck profile and the ergonomic body design.
So we thought with the Life with Strings Attached podcast, we would bring live here at the show this conversation because we want to go deeper than anybody goes. If you want simple bar talk about guitars, there's lots of people doing it, but prepare to get your mind exercised today. Maybe a little provocative, but I'm hoping that these guys are going to share some wonderful insights with all of you. So without any further ado, thank you for attending and let's get going. Today's topic is the guitar as user interface design. From my perspective, the thing that unites the guitar from Torres and Stouffer in 1850 through to the most modern guitar designs today is the guitar as a mechanical user interface. This way that we interact with the strings, pressing them against the fingerboard. But there's so many aspects after that that are negotiable. And that's what makes the guitar so unique in the world, is that humans constantly evolve, our culture constantly evolves, and the guitar is a musical instrument that evolves more than any other musical instrument that I can think of. And so I want to dive into why we would change the guitar, what we're chasing, what are we after, why should we do this, and why should we not just accept the best guitars have already been made and that nothing needs to happen. Thank you for the few smiles I see in the audience who think that's ridiculous. So do I. That's why you're in the Boutique Guitar Showcase. So I think we'll just start from the end here. Sheldon, you have been relentless in chasing the ultimate idea of what a bass guitar can be. Why? Why not just make a copy of something else? Why do you put yourself through so much trouble? And what's a little bit of the process? What's that thing that drives that impulse to change the interface?
Well, I was lucky enough to stumble onto something that I believe to my core was of benefit to not only the bass player, but everything in the chain, all the way to the pair of ears that hears it. And so the source tone, there's nothing wrong with instruments from the 50s. They have excellent source tone. But everything since that time, how people hear music, the average home theater system now sounds way better than a stereo from the 70s. So our audiences have never had more educated ears, and so we want to provide them with a more accurate, more musical source tone to take advantage of all this technology that's developed since the 50s. That didn't really answer your question. It's half and half empathy versus ego. Empathy, listening to customers, trying to understand their needs, and then the ego defending your vision and not wavering, even if the rest of the world is telling you, no, you're out of step, you're wrong. Eventually, if you're lucky, they'll come around and you'll all agree.
All right. Bob, same question. What is it that drives that innovation? Why didn't you just make a dovetail joint? Why didn't you just use the same pickups? Why did you continue to push as you did? Because you've been pretty pushy, and I'm thankful you were. But what do you think it is that drives that?
For me, I started out not knowing anything about guitars, and in fact, when I made my first guitar, I thought it was an original idea to actually make a guitar. I never even thought of the fact that there were other factories. So a lot of people come into guitar from playing guitars, experiencing good guitars, repairing guitars. I was 16 years old. I wanted to strum a guitar. I had a $30 Japanese guitar at the time. I wanted a 12-string, so I thought I would make one. That's where I started out. So it was absolute pure ignorance in what everybody else was doing that I really think was my superpower from those days. In those days, it just seemed like ignorance. But now when I look back, I realize, well, I had no preconceived notion of how a neck should be made. I remembered learning what a dovetail was and working on it. I got about, a third of the way into it and said, I'm not going to do this. Like, why would I do this? I'm going to do something else. And so I wasn't encumbered by what had come before me. And then I met a few guitar makers like Larrivee. Was very instrumental in the early part of my life of just looking at the guitar and seeing what good craftsmanship was there. My first guitars had skinny necks on it. I didn't know they shouldn't be. They had a tone that wasn't bass dominant. It was a little more bright. And we were in Southern California when Laurel Canyon took off, A&M Records, the Eagles, Jackson Browne, all this stuff. And all these people were electric guitar players that weren't into folk music. They discovered our guitars. So what a lot of people don't realize is that Taylor Guitars was born on the back of electric guitar player customers saying, your guitars are easy to play. We started putting pickups so they could plug them in, and we gave acoustics to all these cats that played electric guitar that wanted to play acoustics and didn't like acoustics that were available. So it just evolved on its own. During all that time, I never compared my guitars to anybody else's guitar. And I looked at the things I was trying to do, and it developed symbiotically with me as we went. There was no master plan. There just wasn't. Over time, we honed in on what it is that we're able to do, and we started refining, getting better and better and better at those things. But at the beginning, there wasn't a goal.
Ola, why? Why keep changing?
What he said. No, my journey is actually incredibly similar. The way that I started, I played guitar though. I worked at the local music store and repaired guitars for them because I have an engineering mindset and I'm technical in nature. But then I got out of the business. I didn't play for 15 years. I had a real career in software. And after those 15 years, I came back and I had the idea that I wanted to build a guitar for me, just as a distraction. And I went into my local music store where I used to work, and nothing had happened in 15 years. And that just kind of put me off. And I started looking for a problem to solve and stumbled on ergonomics as an issue for players. I didn't know very much about it. I didn't have any ergonomic issues myself other than, tennis elbow from too much computer work. But it seemed like a relevant problem to solve and just an interesting challenge.
Cedar Creek Custom Case Shop is your premier fretted instrument custom case maker, and we invite you to create a musical instrument case unlike any other, one that's unique to you. Every Cedar Creek custom case is hand-built by highly skilled craftspeople using only select woods, Providence Forge hardware, and premium instrument-friendly materials. At Cedar Creek Custom Case Shop, we are dedicated to helping you design the case of your dreams. Find out more at cedarcreekcases.com.
And I had no intent to start a company. To me, it was a hobby, it was a distraction. I had no desire to do anything that anyone else had done, so I didn't look for a template on how to build a guitar. I didn't look for a template how to build a company. I just went on intuition and customer requirements, because I happened to stumble on this new type of player who played 7-string guitars, 8-string guitars. They did things that no one had done before. They had no need to look like the rock and roll guitar heroes. So just went with it. There's this quote, I'm a success today because I had a friend who believed in me and I didn't have the heart to let him down. And yeah, that's what I built the company on.
One of the things that I've often considered is designing with intention, and then observing that many things were designed with one idea, and that actually that idea was not what caught on. There was an unintended consequence that grabbed it and took it somewhere else. And I hear that often throughout stories. The Les Paul was made for jazz players who never accepted it. The Marshall was supposed to be a clean amplifier that was affordable in England. The humbucker pickup was just supposed to get rid of the noise. And you put those three things together and we had the sound of rock, but none of them were trying to accomplish that. And I hear some of that happening throughout the story here. Bob, at the Fretboard Summit a couple of years ago, I gave a talk on the unwritten future of guitar in the acoustic section. And I've always given this talk across the guitar as a whole. And I tried to remove the electric guitar from my conversation because it was the acoustic area. And I realized it's impossible. The acoustic guitar and electric guitar evolution has been intertwined. And it was really gratifying to hear you a moment ago say that your thin necks, which you didn't know were an advantage, were what the electric guitar players who were picking up acoustic grabbed onto. And there is this unintended consequence. And so there's us pushing forward with product design, but then, like Sheldon said, we have these external forces happening where fidelity in microphones, in recording, and in audio playback has expanded so much. When we were recording on records, we literally couldn't go outside of a bandwidth or else the record we literally couldn't create a record that had bass as low as we currently can do. And therefore, the music was shaped by the technology's limitations. And as the technology has expanded, instrument makers like yourselves have had to respond with clearer, lower notes, extended range instruments. Now we can hear that this string is clear and this string is not so clear. Whereas in older recordings, frankly, it compressed it so much where maybe it hit those limitations. And so as time has gone on, have you found that modern technologies have introduced new problems for you because we expose things through other technological advances? Anyone?
I definitely think that's true. And yeah, the extended range guitar just puts entirely new requirements on the entire signal chain. And there are a lot of design considerations, both from the mechanical perspective and the signal chain downstream. And I mean, people don't play with an amp. Or a lot of people don't play with an amp anymore. They have high resolution monitors on their desks, so they'll hear any defect, and they notice that the attack is different on one guitar than another, not just from the tactile experience, but actually from the sound that comes out. So, and that's something you have to design for, but still maintain the analog experience of the instrument, I think.
I can think of a few examples. It's really true. Here's one for you. I'm going to start by saying a quote of Brian Wilson. He said, when every guitar player got their own digital tuner, music got thinner. Okay, we want to be in tune, but if you think of an 85-piece orchestra, that orchestra is not really in tune. But yet now we want everything in tune. So I'm making acoustic guitars, but what gets popular for a period of the arc of our company is electronic music that are playing, you know, almost a mean-tempered temperament. Everything is so accurate, and the acoustic guitar, they go into a recording studio and they tune the guitar this way and they play the whole song for it to be in tune down here. Then they tune the guitar so it's going to sound good in the middle of the fretboard, and they play the whole song. Then they tune the guitar so it sounds good up here, and they play the whole song, and then the engineer punches it in and out. And then we think, how can we make a guitar to where you don't have to do that, right? And so these are some of the things that we go on when it happens to tone. The tone of an acoustic guitar is, well, you like it or you don't like it. Are you playing bluegrass? Are you playing jazz? Are you like, what are you playing? You know, are you playing fingerstyle? Taylor Guitars was symbiotic with the rise of fingerstyle guitar and maybe the rise of acoustic rhythm tracks in pop music, right? We never really were on the bluegrass stage. Now we are. You know, we had to make new guitars for that to happen. So as we made our guitars more accurate, we started joining the crowd of music getting thinner. And the fact is that you need a little bit of that funkiness here and there, especially with the guitar that's playing chords. And so that's a thing. And then the other thing is, the closer we get to some type of goal, the harder it is, the easier it is to see something that's stopping you from getting to the next point and solve that problem. You know, you go from a chisel to a saw. Okay, that's good. You go from a saw to a router. That's good. Most of my life has been really trying to conquer the problem of ownership of an acoustic guitar. They're a terrible thing to own. They're trying to fall apart all the time. The neck is changing, this is changing, they're hard, they're out of tune. And so I've been trying to fix, how do you make this thing so somebody can buy it and have a nice experience owning this thing? It is the interface, but that interface on an acoustic, boy, in different humidities it's different, in different countries it's different. And so I'm going to say that one of the things that helped me along in that is just a personality complex that I have, which is I don't think I live in the present very well. If I'm going through a buffet line, I'm not thinking about what I'm putting on my plate. I'm thinking about seconds. You know, when I load up my Land Cruiser and I go camping and I set up camp, I'm almost not enjoying setting up camp. I'm thinking about how I can make it better the next time I go camping. And I think that, so I'm a tweakhead in the good sense of the word, right? And every time I'm doing something in our factory, I'm like, okay, this is better than last time, but it's still stupid. And I got to figure out a way to it be less stupid. And this is how the Taylor Guitar Factory grew into what it is now. Now, I will say one thing. If I give somebody a tour of Taylor, I like to say this. I'm going to show you today's Taylor guitars on this tour. I'm not going to show you yesterday's, and I'm not going to show you tomorrow's. This is Taylor Guitars today. And if you go to our booth, you're going to see today's Taylor guitars. You won't see yesterday's, and you won't see tomorrow's. And as long as I live that way, the guitars just get better.
Well, that's a great statement for the unwritten future of guitar. Thank you, Bob.
This space is normally reserved for brands who make stories like this possible, like the Dario and the Cedar Creek Custom Case Shop. If your company belongs in this conversation, let's talk. We partner with brands who value craft, culture, and the quiet power of a well-placed idea.
Sheldon,
I'm the odd one out. All the modern technology that's come on stream during my career has only helped us. 8-string guitars forced the bass lower into the mix, and we had a solution that was already there that we didn't know we had, and that drove sales for us. Neodymium pickups, I just thought the magnets were cool, and it turns out for the heavy styles, drop tuned with super heavy strings, it's the perfect pickup for that. So again, we had a solution that we didn't know had a purpose yet. We just did it because I thought it was cool. What else? The extended scale. Again, it can be attacked extremely hard and with staccato type of play, and our instrument was already designed capable of that, and so we've just sort of accidentally found our way to where we are, and it's been very helpful to have music styles support that and help us grow.
great. You know, one of the things I think about when we're talking about design and user interface design is common knowledge. When you're not a designer, we hear about things like form follows function. What people don't talk a lot about, that designers talk about, is that form also follows production. Each one of you has gone from making an individual guitar to making thousands of guitars at this point in time. And so I'm curious to know, when we're dealing with the individual guitar, some of these guitar makers here in the Boutique Guitar Showcase can dedicate an ungodly amount of hours to a single vision. But when we move into production, you get all sorts of efficiencies, but you also say, well, that would be great to do, but we can't spend 400 hours on a single guitar. That wouldn't make any sense. And so modern technology has become so accessible. It's so easy. I mean, you can order a CNC machine on Amazon today and it'll show up in a couple of days in your home. You can have additive technology like laser printers in your garage or your bedroom these days. All of that has changed so much. How do you think the form follows production and the incredibly accessible machines, both reductive and additive, are going to influence both today's guitars and tomorrow's for the user?
I'd be happy to talk about that. When CNC machines first came out, 1985 or 7, I saw my first one at Tom Anderson Guitar Shop. Tom Anderson was taking a tour of Taylor, and I was showing him how I did something. I said, "How do you do it?" He said, "Well, I have this machine. It's computerized, works in 3 axes." I said, "Tour's over. We're going to your place." And Tom's the one that got me into the first pedal. I had a pedal within a year from that because that's my future, and that pedal was in that future. And I didn't look at ROI or anything like that. In the very beginning, though, that machine was trying to replicate what I did by hand. But it wasn't very long that the machine became so capable that it could do things I could never do by hand. And then your design brain explodes into the things that you can make that are too delicate or too accurate, or you are a joint that you're not going to do by hand. If you could, it would take you forever. Now, I'm going to say I love factories. I have a soft spot in my heart for factories, and I love boutique. I love them both. And what's great is that today's technology can handle both. You can use it for production, high volume production. You can use it for high capacity or high accurate, high volume. And you can use it for onesie twosie, to where you're thinking in your mind. It's really interesting. If you think about a CNC machine, there's a line, but that line has no dimension, but your pencil line does. So when you're making something by hand, Do you cut to this side of the line, the middle of the line, or make the line disappear? That goes away. So 1 inch is 1.000. That's what it is. And that just blows open the doors for the things that you want to do. Taylor Guitars, we're a unit volume manufacturer. And I say that you can't be popular and exclusive at the same time. So I want to say that I think there's a differentiation between being exclusive and being high quality. Those are two different things. You can be popular and high quality, but you can't be popular and exclusive. And with exclusivity, there usually comes high quality. I mean, look around. Just look everything that's within these black walls. This is exclusive. It's also high quality. It's also artistic. I have a little bit different world. I live in unit volume production, but I've tried to build a factory, and I'm going to tell you that I got my inspiration when I was 6 years in business, maybe 8. I went to a Mercedes-Benz factory, and I thought, nobody here knows how to make a car, but look what they're doing, because they built the factory to make the guitar.
Great.
Yeah, I got a CNC very early, and I designed my guitars. Leo Fender was like one of my role models, and even though I was just building a guitar for me, it just appealed to me to make it manufacturable. Then when I actually approached the factory to have them mass produced, they looked at me like it was a rocket ship that I asked them to build. So I had obviously failed. But then we had to teach them. But certainly, I think, with the advent of new manufacturing technologies and additive manufacturing, etc., I think that just holds absolutely incredible possibilities going forward, where an instrument can be semi-custom. Part of it is manufactured in the regular production line, but the finishing details are customized to the particular user. But that's still within, it's more of the cosmetic appointments, I guess, but still, I see a way of doing semi-custom type shop. And
Can I just add one more thing that I forgot to say, which really answers, the form follows production. There was a time when factories went from hand building to machine building, but they used furniture leg machines to make guitar necks. And that's a good example of bad version of form following production. The machines were only capable of doing this, so the design of the guitar changed to fit the machine. We're past that with CNC.
Sheldon?
Right now we use 3D printing for prototyping, some small production parts. Metal 3D printing I don't think is ready for mass production yet. I don't think the tolerances are there yet or the accuracy's there yet. But man, there are unbelievable possibilities, and I can't wait for it to develop further and make use of it.
So let's take it to the people for a second. When we're talking about user interface, we have to, of course, be thinking about the people using them. That's the whole point. And so, can you please give me sort of one example of something that you chased specifically for a way to improve it for the experience of the musician playing it? I'm not talking about production necessarily. I'm not talking about efficiencies. I'm talking about there's this thing, there's this problem, and it would be a better experience for the user to interact with it if we did this thing. Sheldon, you've just spent some time doing your new effigy bass. You were showing me some of the not so obvious contours of the instrument. I presume those were made for the human body and how they interact with the instrument. Can you let the people in on a little bit of the thinking behind?
The body concept is something I've wanted to try for a long time, and I was at Thomann Music in Germany in their marimba room, and I used to study marimba when I was a kid, and I had a chance to try maybe 25, 30 different species of wood, and listen to the different resonances. And marimba bars are all relatively the same. They're hollowed out in the center, very thin, and then the mass is at the ends. And so the idea for the effigy was to do the same thing with the body. So not only is it the thinnest body we've ever made in the center, it's the thickest body at the ends. And it was really fun experimenting with that because all the modifications were done on the back of the instrument, so we could modify an instrument with strings on it and in real time take a millimeter off the back and then test it and see how that affected resonance. And millimeter by millimeter, you started to feel it open up and become more resonant. And so it's been really fun in that respect.
As a guitar builder and a player, you have a sense for when something's working right. That's why so many of the world's best trust D'Addario. Unmatched tone, perfect intonation, and strings made to the tightest tolerances in the industry. That reputation is no accident. It's the result of 400 years of being obsessed with quality and innovation. D'Addario, when you know, you know.
You know, Bob, there was a musician just outside of our site here a moment ago. I don't know if he's gone, but Eric Wilson of Sublime was here a moment ago. I did some work with them years ago, helping them get an acoustic guitar for the tour with Sublime with Rome. And they loved the guitar, but they had a T5 that was just so damn comfortable. That was my biggest enemy. That thin body acoustic. They were like, yeah, your guitar sounds great, but that T5 just feels amazing, and I don't want to play a big fat acoustic guitar on stage. And so was that part of the, maybe you want to talk about something more recent than the T5, but for me, I was just reminded because I saw Eric there a second ago. That's an example to me, he's still there. That's an example to me of a user interface experience, the thinking about how thin that body on the T5 was as a hybrid instrument.
We wanted that guitar to be comfortable, to be portable. We wanted to have a few legitimate sounds. And the interesting thing about that is, out of all the sounds that it can make, almost everybody goes to an acoustic sound and sort of a Gretsch sound. They don't use some of the other sounds that are on there, which is cool. I would say we tried and failed with, getting the sound that sound is so subjective. But the way that guitar feels when you hold it is really fantastic. And if I look at our acoustic guitars, I'm going to say neck angles, neck angles, neck angles, neck angles. That's the name of the game. If I can get that right, the user interface is right. And I mean, we're introducing right now our latest neck joint, which it's hilarious because it's the simplest one we've ever made in 50 years. And it's adjustable with the screw. And you can sit down and go like this and adjust it. Don't take the strings off. Don't retune it. Change it for the style of music you're playing that night. Change it for the humidity you're in next week. It's just the easiest thing in the world. You turn a screw. You don't see it. It looks the same as forever. But we've been dogging that neck angle thing for a half a century. Yeah. And that makes a huge difference. I'm going to tell you, Ben Harper got his guitar, and he went out, and he started using this. He goes, no, you guys don't understand. I went to a different part of the country, and I was able in my hotel room to turn the screw and adjust my neck angle, and I'm ready to do a show. I've never been able to do that before. And we go, yeah, we know that's what we want to do. He goes, no, you don't understand. And he goes, this is everything. We go, well, we do understand. He goes, no, you don't understand.
That's a great example of user interface. Because although this room is full of guitar makers and guitar industry people, most of us know how to adjust a truss rod. The concept of the truss rod simply terrifies the average guitar player. It does. They're not comfortable with it. And the fact that you made one that they feel comfortable using is exactly user interface design at its greatest. And so, well done.
Yes, at this point, now that we have a truss rod we can adjust and an angle that we can adjust, I am all about users working on their guitars. And believe me, we're going to put it out there and encourage people to learn how to make those slight adjustments on their guitars.
And can I share some thoughts on that? Truss rods are easy enough to adjust, if you know what you're doing, but they're kind of a pain. And so there's a period of time between where it starts to need an adjustment until I really should adjust it, to, man, this is really starting to annoy me, to, okay, I'm going to go find my wrench and I'm going to adjust my neck. So there's all that time in between that it's not ideally in spec. And so the easier you can make it, the better. That sounds amazing. I got to see this.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say our guitars are 100% about the user experience, and every cut, every little detail is about that experience. And the thing with an electric guitar is, and the whole tone wood debate is, I mean, you, the audience, you probably won't be able to tell the difference between the sound of two different pieces of wood or the body shape through the speakers. But I, who am playing the guitar, my user experience of a different body shape or a different wood choice, I will feel that, and that will influence how I play. If I have a great experience, I'm going to create good music that you all hear. So for us, like the sound is secondary, because the pickups are such a big part of what you hear, but the user experience of the instrument itself is what I feel when I'm playing, and you're going to hear that. So we design for the user experience, and then the actual sound that's going to come through your speakers, that's largely the pickups and the signal chain. So, yeah.
Wonderful. And you know, Ola, you're one of the only examples I can think of right now that made a design which seems less convenient at first for musicians, and that is your particular neck carve. People look at that and go, why would I want a kind of square-like neck carve? And they really can't wrap their heads around it first until they experience it and realize, oh my God, this actually really does something for me. It's not so obvious as to this is just easy to go with. And so the guitar continues to evolve. The future is unwritten. Looking at the evolution of the guitar from, again, 1850 through to modern design, I do not understand why people make proclamations that we've arrived at guitar at any point in time. There is simply no evidence at all that the guitar has ever stopped evolving, and the only reasonable thing to think is that it's going to continue to change. There is no case for the guitar solidifying ever at this point. As long as humans continue to change, the guitar will continue to change. Folks, we have a hard time stop because we have busy people here, and so I need to respect their time. Thank you so much for attending The Unwritten Future of Guitar, the guitar as user interface. Thank you so much for our guests, Sheldon Dingwall, Bob Taylor, and Ola Strandberg.
I thoroughly enjoyed this discussion with my esteemed colleagues. I hope that you enjoy it as much as I did. You've been listening to Life with Strings Attached. If today's conversation meant something to you, consider passing it on. These stories find their place through the people who share them. A new episode comes out every Friday, right here, wherever you're listening. I'm Jamie Gale, and thanks for listening to Life with Strings Attached.